All right, I am joined today by Jon-Michael Hartway. Um, Welcome to the show, and thank
Hi.
you for joining.
Yeah, pleasure.
So do you prefer Jon-Michael? Should I say that, or John, or does it? What's your preference
Uh,
here?
Jon-Michael's fine.
Jon-Michael, nice.
Nobody seems to get it right, so I just like,
Well, you have the hyphen, so I feel like
yeah,
I should respect that. So I'm down with that. Okay, so you spoke recently at Big Sky
hmm
DevCon, and this was not your first time speaking.
no.
So that's kind of I wanted to sort of talk. I really enjoyed your talk for a couple different reasons, but we'll get into that. But maybe just to start, so just for big picture, your talk was on doing projects for Twitter Clout, and you've done some sort of HTMX
Yeah.
experiments, fun stuff. But maybe we can just get started with like, what's your general dev background? Like, what's your normal stack, your job, stuff like that?
So I guess I started programming probably about 12 years ago. But I was more interested in like the low level stuff, like logic gates and uh, architecture, like CPU architecture, that kind of thing. I was really interested in like actual hardware, just playing with it, seeing what happens, you know.
Nice.
But I started with like Python and C++, kind of a combo. I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just like, maybe I should learn a programming language or something. And
Yeah.
yeah, I started progressing through that, and I was like, I'm not too bad at this. I can kind of figure it out. Once you master your functions and your if statements and all that stuff, it's basically the same, you know.
Yeah.
But I think I started with the web around 2016, roughly, with like
Okay.
PHP and then Node.js popped up, and then I played with that a little bit. I have mostly a Node.js background, but most of my projects recently have been Go, like, or my personal projects.
Yeah.
So I like that it uses 10 megabytes of RAM just idling there, and it'll take thousands of requests a second and not break a sweat.
Nice. Yeah, I have not used Go basically ever, so I don't really have that. I'm primarily PHP, but I've heard just like really good things about Go, especially for efficiency and speed and sort of back end server stuff.
Yeah, and for like all this, like these high frequency HTMX experiences uh, or experiments, it's almost a no brainer. I mean,
Gotcha.
an Apache server probably has like 120 millisecond response time or something like that, or 100
So you're just
milliseconds.
starting off with like handicapping yourself if
Yeah.
you're trying to do something that's close to real time or just like really fast.
hmm
Gotcha. So when you say like you started off doing like hardware stuff, is that like an Arduino or something, or is that like how do you actually program hardware stuff as like a just for fun?
So whenever I mean, I'm 26 right now. Whenever
Okay.
I was about 15, I was making stuff with Redstone and Minecraft, and like
Oh wow.
trying to build computers in there. And I was just like, I think other people might want to learn this. So I started my own YouTube channel teaching people how to build CPUs in Minecraft, because that was
Wow.
like, I don't know, people really liked it. Uh, I wasn't
My
really
kid
good at
would be
making
very
videos,
interested.
so
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
but
So you ended up making just like you did like a channel for a while and then
mhm.
ended up stopping. I mean, it's a lot of editing time. I don't know if that was your
Yeah,
issue,
yeah,
but that's the thing. I'm like every one of these YouTube content people, like what they're really good at is editing. Like whatever else they do, I'm sure they're fine at it, but the thing that they're spending all their time doing is editing.
I mean, if I had something like DaVinci Resolve back then, I probably would have been a little bit easier, but I think I was
What's that
working
one?
with like, what's that?
DaVinci Resolve? Is that like a is that like
Yeah,
an editing tool?
yeah, it's like I I think it's better than like Premiere or something like that. Um,
Okay,
it's just it feels very Mac-like. I don't know how else to describe it. Everything's
that's
just kind of
cool.
smooth,
I
right?
I gotta try that out because some of these videos that I've worked on, I'm just like I can't believe how long it takes to make. Um, and
Yeah,
that's just after you build the whole project that you're trying to show or whatever. Then it's like the video part takes just as long sometimes.
yeah. I
Okay,
mean
so
it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry,
What
go
were you saying?
ahead. Yeah, I mean, like the whole, I didn't really do much editing back then, just because, I was in school, right? I
Yeah,
had all that
yeah.
going on. And then I was actually doing night school at the time. I was trying to get out of high school as fast as possible. So,
Oh wow,
um,
nice.
but
So
yeah,
so when
that's,
did you come across like HTMX and start kind of like doing those experiments?
um, so I guess whenever like the actual experiments, um, it started whenever I did that HTMX Flappy Bird game.
Yeah.
You know, it it kind of got a lot of eyes on it because everyone knows Flappy Bird, and everyone in the dev like web circle kind of knows that HTMX exists, but then they're like, oh, you can do that with it. I guess that's kind of cool.
Yeah. So like okay, so you came so you I mean you're on Twitter. I seen you on Twitter and stuff. So is that where you sort of like first discovered HTMX?
I think it was the Primogen that I was watching, and he was talking about HTMX, and I was like, that kind of brings me back to the jQuery PHP days, and I was like, well, that looks a lot simpler than what I did. The monstrosity that I had to create every time I wanted to do something like that.
Yeah. And were you using like what were you using before?
Um, I guess I was just using jQuery and Node.js with handlebars.
Node.js. Okay. Right.
So that was like my main stack is like, yeah, if I need to do anything dynamic, I guess I'll just use jQuery.
Right. Yeah. No, jQuery has got some you know it's well tested at least. I'll say that about
It
it.
is.
It's been
Yeah, it's
run through the
predictable.
ringer. Yeah. Okay, so you made the HTMX Flappy Bird, and that was the sort of that was the your talk from last year from 2024
Yep.
at Big Sky was the Flappy Bird, or you did a co-talk, right? There was somebody else who was with you.
Yeah, it was Nate was there. Yeah, I mean, we presented a couple different games that year. He did
Okay,
one for Pong, and then the Flappy Bird was like what kind of got the whole idea rolling. And then there was also the HTMX Agario, which was with WebSockets, so it was a little bit snappier.
Agario. Okay, yeah, I don't remember that. I don't recall which game that was. But yeah, so for Flappy Bird, like, how did it actually work? Like just like, what was the HTMX code there? If you can remember, if you can describe it.
So what it was doing is basically like requesting a frame from the server every 30 milliseconds, which comes out to about 30 frames per second, which is about
30,
bearable,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
Um, and the server would have like some state of what the player was at, because they would make a session token essentially, and then just use that token to get their state.
So it
And
was like
there's
some
just
sort
like
of
this,
state array or something
yeah, there's
saved
just
on
like
the
a big
server.
map of different states, and then it would request that. It would render out the frame with all the pipes and whatnot. Um, it would do all the culling off the old pipes, so it doesn't go and re-render those. It would take note of the viewport so we can get like a
Yeah.
rough estimate of how many pipes to draw.
Okay. And every frame is like this is stateless. Like this is like a basic. You could almost say like the way PHP works. Like it's just request response. You're saving a session variable with everything. So this is like brute force
Well, it's not
sending requests.
stateless. Like this wouldn't really be, I guess, proper hypermedia because I mean you do have that state that's just this giant array of sessions, and I guess
On the
yeah,
server though, right? I mean this so
yeah,
it's like you're still it's not like creating an SSC or a WebSocket like connection necessarily. It's like when the request comes in, it's checking that cookie or whatever, that session variable, and
yeah,
just building everything every frame. Is that's kind of how it was set up?
yeah. I guess you could make it technically stateless. I mean, if you throw in something like Redis or whatever to store all the sessions, but um, I there was no way to scale that server up, and there was so much cruft in that server whenever I was done with it.
Yeah. Oh,
That
so
I was
you
just
kept a
like,
process running on the back
yeah,
end.
yeah,
Okay, okay. So this is so I'm just I do a lot of PHP programming, and most of the time you don't really keep a process running. But with Go, and this was with Go on the back end.
hmm
Okay.
so I guess I should clarify there were like these things called Go routines, which are basically like a function that you could just spin off to the background. And
Okay.
anytime that someone would join, they would create a new Go routine, and then after some ending condition, that Go routine would just die,
Yep.
and then uh, it's no longer running. But there was like the chance that that condition is never met, and they just stay in the background. So
Yeah,
um, had to restart it a couple times. Just runs out of memory.
yeah. Right. No, at some point, if this was like a major site you were doing, you'd probably have to do some garbage
Oh yeah,
cleanup and checking and all these kind of stuff. But that's not the point of doing these experiments, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So is that still out there? Like, can people still like? Is there a link or no? Because you have to have a process running, so you probably start it up whenever you want to show it or something like that, right?
Pretty much. I think that one would be very expensive to run because it
Right.
would just keep on crashing, and you know I mean I guess I could just add a memory limit in the container and just whenever it dies it just restarts.
Just restarts. Yep.
But yeah, I mean there's some of my other projects where I want to actually get them up there going because I just got myself a Hetzner server, and I'm just gonna put all my projects on there. Um,
Yep.
it's gonna be in
Nice.
Germany, so pretty bad
Yeah.
latency, but it'll work.
Are all the Hetzner's is Hetzner generally in Germany?
They have some US based servers, but I went on that auction. I couldn't find any US based servers because I just wanted like one with lots of RAM, and you know, I
Yeah.
I don't want to pay 70 $80 a month for that.
Yeah. No, I gotcha. Yeah, I use DigitalOcean and it's good for this area. It's good for the East Coast. I don't know. Are you on the East Coast too
I'm
of the
in
U.S.? Oh,
Louisiana.
you're central. Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
Louisiana. Okay. Nice. Yeah, I've thought about Hetzner, but yeah, my sense is that it's like very popular in Europe right now, and it's very cheap. And I'm like, well, I don't know if that means it's like going to be as accessible. Most of my clients are in the East Coast or in the
Yeah.
U.S. in general, so my DigitalOcean's working pretty well. So would you say that HTMX was not the ideal tool for a game like Flappy Bird?
Um, yeah, probably not, but I think it could be done a little better,
Hmm.
perhaps with WebSockets and maybe some better stream management. Because I think the way it was going is it had like three different streams going on, and you'd have one request for like the background, and then one request for like the actual pipes, and then the
Oh,
ground.
really?
So
Okay.
it was kind of updating those all individually. Originally, I was just updating like each pipe individually because I thought it'd be funny, um, just to see all those requests going through. But
Yeah.
yeah, I wanted to actually make it somewhat functional.
Somewhat playable. Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
you could
Yeah,
actually
I
see that.
remember.
Yeah,
I remember when you fired it up at the conference, and it was like, all of a sudden everybody in the conference is playing it, and it was working. I mean, you were playing it live on the screen in 2024, and it's like the frame rate it was like I feel like it was like probably like 15 or something like that, if I had to guess at the
yeah.
time.
It was in
But I mean,
Seattle, so
what was in Seattle?
the server was hosted in
Oh, the
Seattle.
server was in Seattle.
So
Okay.
it was
Oh,
15,
funny.
only being I don't know, what, 300, 400 miles away.
Yeah, I mean that's so what I thought was cool about this is like this is not like there probably are like WebSockets or these other options to kind of do this, but just the fact that it actually worked, like it was functional and playable, even though it was maybe I would say like a brute force way of kind of doing this. I didn't realize there was separate requests for the different objects too.
Yeah.
Interesting. So how did you handle like collisions if there's separate like I'm trying to think how that would work.
I just calculated the like the collisions on the server
Okay,
because the server just basically has like an exact state of what's going on.
gotcha. So you're like each of those requests for what the user sees is more of like a projection of you do have your sort of your main state, which is not dependent on like whether the actual divs are like connecting or not.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Nice. So have you done like games in general, or is this like like have you done sort of other types of games?
I've done some games. A lot of them have just been like I'm just experimenting. I want to see what's possible.
Yeah.
A lot of I've done some 2D stuff, done some 3D stuff. So it's been I've done a little bit of games, but not an actual game. I don't really have much of an interest in games beyond that. Just like
Right. Just
the
kind of messing
graphics part
around
of
with
it,
it.
and I guess the cool stuff. I don't I don't know.
Well, people have different versions of what the cool stuff is. But yeah, so you like kind of like figuring out the nuts and bolts of like
Hmm.
whatever tech you're using and using a game as kind of the way to do that. Is that maybe the right way to think about it?
Yeah, I guess so. Because everyone that gets into graphics, that they eventually land on the idea that, oh, I'm gonna make it from scratch, and that's
Right.
what I've done all the way up to this point. I'm just like, yeah, I mean, it'd be kind of fun to make it from scratch.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so your actual talk was, so that was 2024, the Flappy Bird stuff and some of the
Mhm.
other games. But your actual talk for Big Sky was doing projects for Twitter Clout, right? Um, so and you had kind of five different, or I think it was five different sort of metrics, and I'll just go through them. Maybe we can. So the first one was viral. What's your version of viral? How do you sort of think about that?
It has to be deployable. Like you have to be able to give someone a link to it of some sort. Like I think the web is really the best place for that. I'm sure that you could probably figure out some other way to do it. I have no idea. But ideally, you can pass it along and then they can pass it along. Hence the
Right.
virality.
All
So,
right. Yeah. And then next was ridiculous and over the top.
yep.
So what's your metric for ridiculous and over the top, or just whatever you feel like on that day?
Um, sometimes I just cook up these ideas in my head, and then I'm like, you know what? I could do that.
Yeah.
Just like any kind of random shower thought that you're like, man, this would be ridiculous, but I should do it because
You
it'd be funny. I
know,
mean,
nobody can stop me from doing it. Like I
yeah,
have
just because
control
you
over
can.
myself and my computer.
Exactly.
Nice. Yeah, and so like for Flappy Bird, it's like over the top is like sending that many requests. Like someone you'd go insane if you tried if this was on a mass scale or something like that. It's like
Yeah.
okay, we got to figure out some other way to do this. So I think that's where sort of the over the top part of that comes from.
Also, everything's a div. That's
Everything's a div. Okay,
yeah.
interesting. And I think so. I'll get in. I wanted to ask you about that too for the 3D game, but we'll get into that in a second. So the next one is that it has to be. So this is the third one. Has to be the wrong tech. So this is the project doing projects for Twitter Clout. So why the wrong tech?
Because like some people will just have like the massive outrage, like why would you do that? And then some people will have like, wow, I don't know why I didn't think of that. Like,
Yeah.
so it's kind of going to those two different pools of people. It's just like the people that are just mad, and then the people that
Yeah.
are just like, man, that's hilarious.
Yeah. No, and you could sort of see that online because like there would be people who would like seriously look at that project and be like, this is ridiculous. Like HTMX is obviously bad. Like this is the wrong thing for sure. But like they're there saying that, commenting on it, interested in it because it triggers something to see something done in a way that's like not the obvious choice, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I like that. I like that metric. And then the people who like HTMX are like, whoa, holy crap! Like that's what I saw it, and I was like, man, like that couldn't really work, right? And then it's like, oh, it does work. That's a surprise. Like, you know, basically what that told me at the time is like, your bottleneck for websites. I think people who are not used to server side rendering, in general, think of basically server side rendering as just generally slower because if you have your client do stuff, then it's immediate because it's like your front end, But like, my take on that is like, realistically, a lot of these front end sites are extremely slow for various reasons. And they're still getting their data from the server in some capacity if they're like a real site with like, real back end data. So I think when you have something like, getting into that like idea of you're always going to be pulling your little snippets of HTML from the server. And so people think of that as, oh, this is like server-side rendering, it's going to be slow. And then you see it in practice. And in my experience, it's actually extremely fast to get little snippets of HTML. I mean, the server, the browser, like these things are so optimized for doing this. And to me, a game like that, the Flappy Bird, is like, I felt like it's proof of that. I mean, you're getting 15, 30 frames a second. But for games, maybe that's just
bad.
okay.
But
It's passable. But like, I'm not building games, I'm building websites. If I'm getting 15 frames a second on my website, like I'm doing pretty good. Right?
especially with WebSockets, you throw that into the mix, and you can get some real time feedback if you need it.
Yeah, and the server sent events too. Like I've been, I've been talking to Delaney, who does, Delaney Gilliland, who does Datastar, and just I had never really used server sent events much, and I know the HTMX also has an SSE extension.
Yeah.
And with that, it's like that's also extremely fast. You have these sort of setups where you're basically establishing a connection, so you don't have to do that send response every time. You can just establish that connection and just get from the server. You have some loop running on the server, which is I guess kind of what you sort of you weren't doing server sent events, but you're establishing some loop on the server and then just sending things back. And then you have separate commands that update the game state. So your primary server has some sort of, Redis or, just an array. Even in the database, it could be, but your server has some sort of state. You can send requests to update that state, and then you just have a server-sent event loop that's spitting out your projection of the data. And that's actually like surprisingly efficient.
Yeah, I mean, especially since you're requesting so little data. I mean, compared to like whenever you're on the front end and you're working with React or whatever, and you're requesting these giant JSON blobs that maybe you only need like a couple pieces of it. That's a lot to send over the pipe. Not to mention, I know everyone will say like, the bundle sizes aren't that bad because it's only on the first load, but that's like your first impression of the page is that it's downloading a 10 megabyte bundle.
Well, even then, like, it's like, okay, you're downloading a lot, fine, first time, but you're not every single time you do one of these requests, you're not just downloading it, you're also running it through, your front end JavaScript processor to do, to convert it into whatever else it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Which is like, you just skip that step entirely. So like in terms of speed, I mean, it's very hard to beat HTML for speed on like pretty much anything. If you're talking your browser, definitely. Your server, like we've worked for 40 years to make HTML efficient in the processing on a browser. So, well, okay, yeah. So the next one here is your Twitter Clout 5 things. The fourth one is low scope. So what's your version? What does low scope mean to you?
Ideally, you'd want something that you can work on the weekend or whatever, or if you have time, work on after you get home from work. Something that's not really gonna be boring to do. Something that's not like super tedious. You're just kind of building out things and then kind of getting a almost below MVP, probably below MVP thing out there and get it in the hands of people. And then that has the benefit of like, oh, well, you shipped a product or you shipped a project. I'm not going to say a product.
Yeah. Once you start thinking of it as a product, you run into all these other problems, in my experience.
It's a product that makes no money. It actually makes money.
And it needs like a marketing page, and it needs like these other kind of like accoutrement, for lack of a better word.
Yeah. But stuff like that, it's it really gives you like I'd say like a new head on your shoulders, like whenever you ship something and you see like how it does in the real world.
Yeah.
So that's really beneficial, especially if like you're a newer developer, you've never seen something go into the wild before. Stuff like that is really valuable.
No, I totally agree. I really like that because it's like, it's very easy to have 50, 80% done projects, or 30% done, or you bit off more than you could chew and the scope is getting bigger, and it's like really digging in to say like it's low scope, and that's a good thing. That's intentional. Yeah. Like we're not doing error handling, we're not doing special login, like, oh, you can log in another way, like, or even log in at all. Like we're just making it, it's like, I guess I would think of it as almost like a proof of concept also. Maybe that's maybe the word I sometimes use for stuff like that. Prototype, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that, so it sounds like you also, the last thing on here was that it should be fun, right? Like if you're doing stuff for Twitter Clout, you should be having fun with it, right?
Yeah. Because I mean, like, a lot of developers in their day job aren't necessarily doing the most exciting things.
Yeah.
If you're making a CRUD app with a front end, probably React, and pulling your hair out over it. And last thing you want to do is come home and do something that's boring.
Yeah. Do more of that. And just continue and do extra work that is, basically the same thing. So yeah.
Yeah.
Better to kind of like explore a new part of the brain, it seems like.
I'd say so.
Yeah. So okay, so that was, you did Flappy Bird last year. So what was the when did you first think of doing a 3D game in HTMX?
I think I mentioned it on stage before I went off on the in 2024. I was just like, I wanted to make something kind of Doom-like.
Doom,
And
yeah.
this was about the closest thing I could get, with the time available, because it's almost like an entirely new paradigm of game. Like I can't do the things that I would normally do, and like if I was using OpenGL or even something high level like Unity or I guess Bevy's the really popular Rust library. I don't have those high level tools. I kind of have to build like my own HTMX 3D engine.
Yeah, and like just for some reference here, like you're talking like you built this entirely from scratch, like using divs and using like CSS. Is that, I mean, and not like 3JS, or like what was your sort of setup for it?
So CSS does have 3D.
Yep.
I mean, there are 3D transforms, and you can do that. The only difference is like if you want to do anything that's like efficient, you don't have access to the individual vertices. Like you can't just say like, oh, vertice A, I'm just going to go pluck that and put it over here, or I'm going to build like a mesh from scratch, whereas you would have access to that in a real game. Another thing is you can't load in models. Like you can't load in a 3D model. You kind of have to build it from divs, and
Right.
that is only so efficient.
Yeah.
So that's really weird. And then also another thing is I found out actually later, but I was using pixels to measure like objects in 3D space. Like everything was in pixels.
Oh wow. Okay.
Because I can't really use like relative units, or else different screens will have different effects. But I found out it has inches. I found out CSS has inches and centimeters. And,
Inches and centimeters. So is
yeah.
that screen dependent, or how does that work? Or do they have their own version of what an inch and a centimeter is inside, like
they
internally?
do, but
Okay.
don't quote me on that.
Too late. Yeah.
But yeah, I think one of the trickier problems to solve was trying to get the actual screen to look similar on each screen. Because if you had like a laptop screen, you would get in, you'd be all zoomed in, you'd be like basically facing the floor, and this is just kind of a quirk with CSS. Another thing, Firefox and Chrome have two different ways of rendering 3D. I think one of them like might have a different perspective, might have a different FOV or something like that, but it doesn't work on Firefox. So
okay, yeah. I mean, this goes back to the scope thing, right? Like it's like, let's not worry about Firefox right now.
Yeah, most people are probably already have a Chrome browser installed. I was like, yeah, we're just doing Chrome.
Yeah.
So yeah, as far as getting into the viewport, I just I took an iframe and then applied some magic CSS to get it to scale properly. And it does work on most screens. I even tested it in like a mobile view, and everything stays centered and all that. But yeah, really finicky. Just tweaking those values just right. So
Yeah. So like when you say CSS has 3D stuff, like I mean, how are you programming like transform math, or are you setting a camera position? Like what's the level, what's the low level, like what's the actual nuts and bolts of how you're doing it?
so I'm actually just moving the entire scene. The scene, like the benefit of HTML being how it is like it's basically like a scene graph in a lot of game engines, where you'll just have this tree of elements and you go down, it's just this hierarchy, and everything kind of moves with the scene, or moves with like the particular element that it's under.
Right.
So that's really nice in a case like this, where I can just put all the things in the scene and then move the scene to wherever I want. So I'm kind of just doing like the inverse of everything that the player is doing, and then that's just moving the world around them. And that's how they do it in a lot of games in general. So they'll just move the
Interesting.
world instead of moving. Like the camera is kind of like it's, I guess, virtual is the best way to put
Yeah.
it.
Right. So you have like you're just it's like a browser window. That's your 0, 0, never moving, and you're kind of shifting everything around that, and
Yeah.
and using the CSS 3D stuff, or like I guess is how much math was involved, or like are you sort of able to let the CSS figure out the math if you can place things at the right distance and stuff like that?
So it can do rotations. You can do the transform field or attribute on a CSS element, and then you can pass in a range of transforms. I mean, they have rotate X, rotate Y, rotate Z. Then they have like rotate 3D, which is if you want to like rotate across three different components. Any further than like what I did, where I have just the camera going, horizontally,
Yeah.
would probably require some additional math, like probably bringing in quaternions, which is what they're using in real games to get to avoid gimbal lock, which I didn't want to deal with because trying to keep the scope low.
What's gimbal lock?
So it's really hard to like put it in the, like I guess the way to think of it is, if you imagine, have you seen like the the sphere that has like a green circle, and then it has a red circle, and then a blue circle, and then these all are different axes that you can move the object on.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you rotate that and then you want to apply another rotation to it, then how do you know where the thing is?
Yeah, you have like
It's
some places do like world coordinates versus like relative coordinates or
Yeah,
something like that. So you can avoid that by never moving your camera, basically. Does
yeah.
that
It's
sort of seem somewhat correct?
because if I wanted like an actual FPS camera, then it would just be a lot more math that I didn't want to do, to
Yeah.
be frank. And then there's one other problem is like I don't know how I would even go about getting a mouse lock on the in HTMX, because like the goal was to do it entirely in HTMX,
Right.
no extra JavaScript. And then how do I get, I guess, a mouse position and then, or a mouse delta rather. It's like
So you
how
didn't even
far
do like any vanilla JavaScript here. Like you were
no.
like just oh wow, okay. So I mean, I was assuming like even when I use HTMX for a lot of stuff, and I, occasionally will throw in some vanilla JavaScript just because just to like uh, grease the wheels a little bit or something like that. Um, so this was really like pure HTMX 3D.
I don't know. I think I'm just insane or something.
Yeah,
Like, I just,
yeah. That's crazy. So, and then I think something that you mentioned when you were showing the game during your talk was that okay. So how did you figure out what goes on top of what else? Because you need to figure out. There's no real camera, right? Like it's not like a camera in that sense. Like it's like you're programming it in. You have to decide. How do you know what's in front of something else? Like, do you keep track of a distance and then you render them in a certain order? Is that, or how do you sort of handle that?
so I really didn't have to do that. There's, I'm trying to remember, it's something preserve 3D. So
Okay.
that kind of cascades down, but it seems to handle the like you don't have to do like a z indexing to try to figure out what's in front of what. It's not necessarily like regular CSS. You
Yeah.
can really think of the individual things as objects. I mean, one thing I did have to do is do backface culling, where I just like take out the backface and then um, kind of manually implement normals, I guess, and just make sure it's like rotated on the correct way. Because the map builder is entirely automatic. I'm not going in there and placing like individual tiles in there or giving positions of different parts of the map. Like I just go in there and in a like a some kind of paint program and then just draw pixels, and then those are now hallways.
So
And
you have an editor that you just, I mean, is it an editor or like it's basically just, you feed it an image.
yeah, it's
And
just an
so
image.
however you're making that image, do you have a special editor that you made or do you just do that in like, whatever your pixeler thing is?
Photoshop or
Photoshop type thing.
I think the one I was using was Photopea, which is a free online Photoshop replacement because I can't not use something that's like Photoshop.
Yeah, I use something called Pixlr. It's like Pixlr, and it's just a free, and it's like a free version of Photoshop, like but Photoshop frozen in time to like 2010 or
Or like
something like that.
CS or
Like,
CS6 or something.
yeah, like I don't know the Photoshop's past that, but like it's very familiar to me. Like from that
It's
era.
hard to like use something else once
Yeah.
you're familiar with like some kind of photo editing software.
Yeah, and it's like because your brain starts to like, okay, I know how masks work, I know how blending works, I know different blend modes, and it's like if you don't have those tools, then like it doesn't work in your brain. Like I don't know what the alternatives to those things are, but if I
Yeah,
use a tool and it doesn't have blend mode, then like okay, I guess I'm done. I can't do anything.
yeah.
So yeah. So okay, so do you think this is like an engine now? I mean, you built, something that takes a map editor and converts it into a 3D thing. It's also got multiplayer. Like when you demoed it live, it had like a bunch of floating lights. Like those are little characters, right? Like those are all
Yeah.
characters. Okay.
That was like a last minute thing though. I was just
Really?
I was doing that in the hotel.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect, I was surprised to see that you added like some sort of multiplayer thing to that because
Yeah.
just on its surface, doing the 3D and 3D and CSS, like I can't say that's like necessarily an HTMX thing, because that all that work is done can be done without the HTMX. The part where you're moving around and the part where you're making the request, updating, that's sort of where the HTMX parts comes in, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, for these like experiments, I've just started using WebSockets pretty much immediately. 'Cause
Okay, so this one you did use WebSockets.
yeah, I mean, there was like, I just feel like it'd be too slow if I wasn't
Right.
using WebSockets. So I think the responsiveness of the WebSockets, there's only like a couple WebSocket endpoints. Like there's only,
Right.
I mean, there's one for the the camera movement, and then there's one for all the players. But even that's probably too expensive, and it probably should just be one call.
Hmm.
To get all the player states and positions and whatnot. But
So did you use the
last minute.
WebSocket extension
Yeah, I did.
in HTMX? Okay, so that's funny because so I've been on the podcast, have been going through the different extensions. I haven't gotten to the WebSocket one yet, so I've never used it. So how does that work? And like, maybe if you can give me just a preview of the like conceptually how your WebSocket in HTMX, how that extension is set up.
So the way it works is you can basically set IDs, like you establish a WebSocket connection, and then you can set IDs on specific objects, and then the server can send back like a not a JSON blob, an HTML blob, and then that's going to contain some ID. So it's doing some kind of parsing on the HTML before it just blitz it into the DOM, and it's just going to find like the matching ID. So pretty simple on that side. As far as what you send to the server, you can do like HX vals or something. I don't. Is it HX vals deprecated at this point?
Vals or vars? I honestly, I can't.
I
I
know
forget which
of
one it
them's
is. I think vals is the good one. I think that's the one to
Yeah.
use. Okay, so you include the extension up at the top. Then you do like you declare it in the body, hx ext equals s or no ws maybe
Yeah.
for WebSocket, and then you set an ID. So what was the actual object? I mean, because you're updating the whole screen, right? So is like
Not
your
quite.
ID that you're doing, is that like your main body?
No, this one doesn't update the screen like the other ones did. It updates a style, and this I didn't know you could put IDs on styles, but apparently you can. So I was just
An
refreshing
ID on a style, like as in like the style tag.
style tag. Yeah.
Whoa, that's cool.
But yeah, it's just sending all of the I guess all the transforms to that style, and then that style points to the scene. And then what you get with this is like, first of all, inline styles or rendering inline styles very quickly is very slow. And then also it leads to like flickering. So I found that out with the HTMX Flappy Bird. And then it's just generally more or higher quality because it already knows where the object is, and then you're just replacing the style. So it's going to have that previous state, and it's not just going to drop it on the next frame.
Okay, so this is I had no idea this was how this worked. This is wild. So you generate your scene once in HTML and you build your map, you generate your HTML scene. Those have maybe IDs that match up to your CSS, and your style tag is the one that is now getting sent over the wire, over the WebSocket. And your style tag contains like each object's like 3D position and up, so that's what's updating. And then your HTML is basically just staying exactly the same.
Yeah, with the exception of the players. That's one part I kind of cheated on because I just added it in and I was like, "Eh, you know what? So that's one of the reasons they don't render very quickly. And I think I set it to like I want to say 100 milliseconds, maybe 200 milliseconds, something like that. But it's still relatively smooth. So
And because you're using CSS for I'm still like processing in my mind how this, because this is not how I thought this worked at all. Because you're using CSS for this, you can get like CSS transitions and others, so from moving from state to state, it could be a very smooth front end experience. Was that sort of part of it, or is that like a theoretical possibility, or is that what
that's
you
a
did?
theoretical possibility.
Okay.
I I think I tried the way that I'm doing it right now, and I was just like, oh, this is pretty quick. You
Yeah,
know?
I mean, that's surprising to me that that wasn't part of it because it was smooth considering.
Yeah.
Um,
I just didn't want
Interesting.
to add any like extra latency to the player controls, but as far as like the actual other players, like that could have been a total possibility because it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I mean there was some interesting smoothing that I did on the player controls just to make them feel a little less rigid because a lot of games like whenever you're first starting out building a game, like you'll start with like some rigid player controls, like you stop on a dime basically. So I
Yeah,
added
you
some
have
of
to
that.
do some sort of like following almost. I think I've done this before with games where you have like, I mean, you don't have a camera, but whatever the version of is like you have your position and then you sort of go to that position with a little delay or something so that you get a little bit of that like smooth in, smooth out. Is that
Yeah,
sort of how you did it?
but that's one of the reasons I didn't add any additional delay in the controls because it, you know, wouldn't be great.
Yeah, and if it doesn't need it, like it's kind of blowing my mind that this is like you were just I don't think I feel like it's something have never thought of is like streaming your CSS. Like that's like
Yeah,
a
I mean it's totally
setting
a
a
thing you can do.
style ID. Who knew? I did not know that. That's because I mean, this that works with other tech too. If it's like, the server sent events, you could if you have the style tag or something like that, putting an ID on that and just being able to treat it like any other HTML tag. I don't know. It's funny that I haven't. I feel like I haven't seen that before. So I don't know.
I mean, I was just like, you know what? Let's see what happens. I mean, otherwise I was probably gonna wrap it in a div and see if I could do it that way, but um,
Right.
just put IDs on style tags.
I'm so used to putting the style up in the head too. So is the style in the body, or did you put it up in the
I
head and
can't
it's
remember
can't
actually.
remember. So the
It's
reason I say that is
probably be in
because
the body.
I think one of the extensions for HTMX is it's like head support. So it allows you to update tags that are in the head, like title and link and whatever else. And so I usually, style is usually kept up in the head. And so like I've done it every now and then where I'm just like, okay, you know what? I need this snippet to have its own little bit of styling. So I've put a style tag. So it's like I know that I can do that and make it a regular tag, but I guess I've never put it two and two together that like, yeah, you can just like put a style tag into your body and then just morph that, update that, send, send snippets including that to change your whole front end if you want to.
Yeah, I mean, like you want to put in a dark mode or whatever, just there's your ID.
Right. Yeah, no,
It's
that's interesting.
dark mode switch right there.
Well, yeah. Well, that's cool. Okay. Um, I'm trying to think like so do you feel like is this like an engine like, is this, I mean, is this something that you think you would like expand on, or, is this is your a project for fun and you'll do a different project next time that is completely in another world?
Um, this, yeah, it's more of just a project. I mean, I've kind of toyed around with like doing DOM rendered video players because I I think that that would be really interesting to just see like how many DOM updates you can push per second.
DOM rendered
Um,
video players. Okay,
yeah,
so
just like each group of pixels is like a div
yep.
or
Okay.
an IMG tag.
So you have like the actual frames, stored on the server as images in some
Yeah,
capacity, and then you would, push the frames out and just like swap out the images and just see how fast you can do that to make it like to do like a DOM video.
yeah, that's probably going to be my next HTMX project. Another one is probably like a flight simulator because that would be somewhat simple to do. Um,
Like because you think you've done the
yeah,
3D
yeah,
part
I've
of
kind of
it
like
before.
yeah,
Yeah,
I've been through the trenches, so to speak.
right.
So
That was one of the one of the really cool that sounds to me like the video one sounds to me like an SSE project, and I say that primarily because when I started experimenting with Datastar stuff, one of the demos that I think really hit me like was this. It's not exactly a video. It's actually like streaming text. Have you seen that? I'll put a link to it.
I think I have.
Yeah, and it's like it's some ASCII
Is it
video,
the
but
Bad Apple
yes, Bad Apple.
video?
That's what it is. And that was another one that kind of blew my mind. Where that like that's where I sort of first understood SSE. Like, okay, you're able to just like open this connection, and the server's just nonstop sending new frames. And actually, it's really fast, especially if it's that was with text. So text is as minimal as you can get.
Yeah.
I would say in terms of sending stuff. So I don't know if sending images, sending pixels, is that more or less? I'm not quite sure. But yeah, that
I
sounds like maybe the SSE extension for HTMX. I don't know.
I don't know. I just kind of want to do something ridiculous. So
Yeah, if you use the right one of those, then you're doing it wrong. like if
yeah,
you, maybe.
yeah, you can't do the right choice because I mean we could just put a video tag in the in
Yeah,
there
you could
like
just
that.
render a video and have it compressed down to like
Yeah, look, we requested it
13K.
via HTMX. That's HTMX video player.
Yeah, it's not cursed enough. Um, so yeah, so I mean, well, this is super cool, and I had no idea. I don't. Maybe you went into it in the talk, but I didn't. Some of the stuff I didn't realize how you were doing this, and this is it's really interesting actually. So I guess like the end of your talk was what's the point of it all, and your answer was sort of intentionally to struggle to learn something new, right? Is that about right?
Yeah, I mean, because this whole project was very difficult because like who do I go to ask questions about this? You know,
Yeah. Yeah, you are on
um,
the cutting edge of 3D
I can't go
HTMX. There's
to
no question.
ChatGPT. I mean, it's not gonna tell me anything. I can't go to any of my friends for it.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's
Yeah. The number of people in the world right now who would be able to help on that is probably like a dozen or something like that.
yeah. I mean, like I'd have to first go through explaining like what exactly I'm doing to begin with, and then
Yeah.
and it just yeah,
Well,
it was pretty difficult.
Yeah. So do you get a chance to challenge? I mean, and don't call out your job if you don't. But like, do you get a chance to challenge yourself during your day job kind of stuff with any of this? No, not with this specifically, but is there any way you can sort of scratch that itch at work?
Um, Not really. I think I'm more product oriented at my job. I'm a team lead, but I'm also like a primary contributor.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of MVP, just like, yeah, just get it done. Just, whatever it takes. Let's
Well,
do it.
yeah. I mean, that's a similar mentality at least. I
Yeah.
mean, at some point, like with your own personal projects too, it's like, to me, this is like the essence of programming. It's like you have to have the faith that you are going to get it done, even if it's a ridiculous goal, even if the goal was given to you by somebody else. Like you are the person who has that faith, and you make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. So I I mean, I work with Next.js and .NET
Yeah,
at work, so it's the problems have already pretty much been solved. Um, I don't I don't really get access to like do this weird like untreaded territory very often. So
yeah,
I think where I do get that kind of I guess enjoyment is out of like the automation side, like scripting and like I'm like I said, I'm very into hardware, so
yeah.
that still is with me, and then DevOps, that kind of thing.
So you can like set up bash scripts or some sort of like, cron jobs that like take care of things that other people might not have thought of.
Yeah, or like little helper scripts in the repo, just so everyone's kind of on the same page.
Yeah.
So that's what I like doing. I like making developer tools.
Yeah. No, I mean that's like it's like anything you can do to make your work life smoother, more organized, more fun. Like
Yeah,
go for it.
you just focus on building the thing, right?
Yeah. Nice. Nice, yeah. So anything else you sort of want to plug or you feel like we didn't cover?
Um, well, you can follow me on Twitter, uh, at Deastl, Deastl. Um,
DEASTL. Yep.
yep, I'm the HTMX Flappy Bird guy. That's that's my tagline right there.
Yep. Nice.
Um, but that's pretty much where I'm active. A little bit on LinkedIn, but yeah, that's it for me.
Awesome. And do you have any other? So I think you mentioned you may have some ideas for the next cursed thing, the next, the next project that hits those marks for you, something viral, ridiculous, the wrong tech, low scope, and a little bit of
Probably
fun.
gonna be that video player, or
Probably going to be, yeah, yeah, nice.
that would be probably a weekend or two. So
Gotcha. All
definitely hit
right.
those
So,
boxes.
yeah. Yeah, so no, that's definitely follow on Twitter for, and I feel like I've seen you sort of mention some of the other projects, which you mentioned those in your talk also. Kind of gave credit to some of the other projects on Twitter that you've come across that kind of hit those marks. So you kind of lifting up the people who are doing similar things, which is cool.
Yeah, yeah. There was the Delaney project. The what was it? Was it 1 billion or was it 10 billion check boxes?
Yeah, billion. That was actually so. It was Anders Murphy, but Delaney tweeted it
I
like
found that
50
out
times
later.
because yeah, because it's uses data star, so he's just it's a cool demo of what you can do with SSE and with data star also. So
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, that's all I got.
Very cool. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much for talking.
Yeah, yeah, it was a pleasure.